Jeremy Corbyn, your Brexit secretary, or shadow Brexit secretary, said nobody is ruling out Remain as an option if there were any kind of a second consultation with the people. Does that include you?
Of course, because we all support the 6 tests we put down, and we all support the terms of the composite resolution that's been put before our conference today.
Ever find yourself voting for Remain?
Listen,
yourself?
You're jumping a few stages here, if I may say so. What we're dealing with is 27 months on since the referendum. The government has failed to negotiate anything serious. We've put down our 6 tests. If the government doesn't meet the 6 tests, we will vote against them.
Yes,
and that may precipitate a general election, and it may precipitate all kinds of things at that point.
But
that is at that point.
It could also precipitate a situation in which there is a second referendum in which the aspect of remaining is on the ballot. Mm-hmm. Could you vote Remain?
We will then decide what our position is as a party.
But you wouldn't rule out voting Remain?
We will decide what our position is.
Yourself, I'm talking about you. You're the leader of the party.
Wait a minute. Can I finish? Thank you. I am the leader of the party, and I will respect the decision of the party and act accordingly.
But you still have to vote as an individual.
But of course I'll vote as an individual in the same way.
But you've been set against the European Union ever since you became an MP. I mean,
no.
Well, what really persuades you that you could vote Remain? Could you vote Remain?
I did vote Remain in the referendum. What I've been is a critic of some aspects of the free market ideology that's there in Europe, because I've seen the devastating effects of that. What I'm in favour of is the social Europe aspects. But let's move it into the territory where it's immediately now, and that is the 6 tests we put down are about protection of jobs, living standards, consumer rights, human rights, and trade, and of course the Irish border.
Talking of jobs, very alarming figures were put out by the government yesterday, and they would affect many, many workers' jobs. If you saw that threat coming, what would your reaction be?
Get an agreement quickly with the European Union on trade to give the confidence of those businesses to remain here in the UK and continue that trade. Jaguar Land Rover, as you know, have gone on to a 3-day week, and other companies have held back, or in some cases delayed for a long time, pretty major investment decisions. But we are a trading nation, we are a manufacturing and service-led economy. Half of that trade is with Europe. We have to maintain that.
But if you saw this grave threat to jobs, would you start to try to persuade your party to Remain?
I would do everything I can to protect those jobs, because we're a party.
Which would include Remain?
Listen, you're kind of, if I may say so, focusing on something that hasn't yet happened. The issue is our party is rooted in communities all over the UK. Those left behind communities that most of whom voted leave but have seen huge job losses and need investment. They need a Labour government that's going to invest in those areas.
There is a split in your party as deep as in the Conservative Party. If you'd been standing in that hall at that moment, half the hall got up and half the hall stayed down. Half the hall applauded, half the hall did not. That is a pretty good indication of this issue of whether Remain should be on that ballot.
Measure the unity of our party by the vote that will take place on this composite motion, which lays down and supports the 6 tests by which we will challenge this government.
Do you have any objection to Monsieur Barnier's idea of having a border in the Irish Sea?
I think there could be problems with that. I want to see a trade relationship, which means that there is no border between Northern Ireland and the Republic, of course. And I think a border in the sea does have problems with it as well, because in reality you just move the border from one place to another.
But you're somebody who has always wanted to see all your working life a united Ireland.
Well,
and
I think, if I may
say so,
is that
really why you're pro-Brexit? Because this could bring about a united Ireland.
That's a pretty imaginative way of discussing.
Not a bad one, though, is it?
It's a pretty bad one because it's so imaginative. What we
well,
need,
you're the one that conceives of a united Ireland.
What we need is a trade agreement with the European Union that makes sure there is no border on trade matters between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, and that I'm determined to see. Listen, I was in Strabane, I was talking to businesses and people there this summer. They're a bit worried.
Let's turn to this, which is the image of a Jewish MP having to be escorted at this Labour Party conference by a policeman. That is a pretty tragic state of affairs, given that she's a Liverpool MP who never has to be escorted while she's in her own constituency. but being in this conference is regarded as a threat.
There is no threat being made in this conference to anybody. We're a party.
So why is she having to be protected?
We're a party that's open and inclusive and oppose anti-Semitism as a totally united party. I've opposed anti-Semitism and racism all my life, and I will continue to do so.
Then how has the issue been so grossly mishandled as to leave one of your own MPs being escorted round this place by a policeman?
Listen, this party opposes anti-Semitism in any form. We reach out to all communities, we represent all communities, and we deal with any issues within the party as quickly as we can. And indeed, I've improved and strengthened and expanded all procedures to make sure there is no abuse anywhere within our party.
But don't you think that what happened in the summer, the appalling row about anti-Semitism in the party, was down in part to your own failure of leadership?
Not at all. We adopted the IHRA definition from the very beginning, but I was determined that we didn't also shut down debate and discussion about the relationship between Israel and Palestine or the rights of Palestinian people. And so the National Executive then came back to it after consultation and agreed on a process and a statement, which has set out exactly what our position is. We are here as one party in a society that we want to see strong and united in its diversity.
The Prime Minister's meeting Iran's President Rouhani today over Nazdin Zaghari. Do you regret the thousands of pounds you took off the Iran state broadcaster when working for them?
I took part in some programs of Press TV. I stopped doing anything with Press TV when they dealt with the elections in Iran and the way in which they dealt with the opposition.
This is the organisation.
No, can I finish,
but
please?
I want to tell you that this is the organisation who filmed a journalist who was working for us on Iranian issues, who was tortured and imprisoned, and then filmed by Press TV in the presence of his torturer, and that material was put out, and that was at the period when you were working there.
I severed my connection because of the way they treated the opposition parties.
But do you
in
regret
Iran.
that you ever had anything to do with them?
Every programme I ever spoke on, indeed every programme I ever speak on, I talk about human rights and justice. I went to Iran on a delegation in the company of other MPs. We raised there, obviously, the nuclear issues and arranged with Iran.
But that's not actually what I asked.
Hang on, can I finish?
Do you regret having had anything to do with Press TV?
I was the one that raised the issues of human rights in Iran.
I know. I'm asking you, do you regret having worked for Press TV?
I used the opportunity to raise issues of human rights in Iran and all around the world. As I said, I decided not to do anything more with them after their treatment of the opposition in the election at that time.
Jeremy Corbyn, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.